Hi everyone, let's get started with this week's live session with Cycling UK, Bants, Bikes and Being Female. It's becoming quite a thing, and I love in some of the comments that I've seen how invested some of you lot are getting into it, really making sure that this is on your schedule and part of your weekly antics. So thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget that you can get involved in all the live comments and everything as well. So your voice is as much a part of this as mine and all of the other expert guests that we've got on today. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, the title of today's episode is Maintaining Cycling as Part of Your Lifestyle. So if you've seen the first two videos, we really focused on beginner cycling, and that is like the very, very basics of how to pick up a bike and get yourself out the front door and cycling. If you didn't see them, you can have a look on our Facebook page and catch up with those at a later date. So now what we're hoping is that you've gone out, you've done those rides, and you've got the bug, you've got hooked, you loved it because bike is best. Do you like my free t-shirt? So cool, love it. Bike is best. And yeah, you're well into it and you want to know how to take it to that next level. And we've got the perfect guests to tell us all about that today. And we've got some experts, a few familiar faces and a couple of new ones as well. So I'm going to be introducing them one at a time. We're going to start with our old staple. So that's Fran from Velo Vixen. She's been there from the first episode. Hello, old staple. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Anna. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Do you want to just give a little bit of an intro about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Fran from Velo Vixen. We are the home of women's cycling. We're an online women's cycle-specific retailer selling a whole range of cycling kit, but we also offer expertise and guidance on product sizing, everything around women's cycling kit, because I've ridden for about 25 odd years in a whole variety of disciplines and fun.
Yeah, we'll be going into disciplines and all that sort of thing a little bit later on as well. You've got some lovely stuff hanging up behind you as well.
Thank you. There are part of our new Velo Vixen range. Will be coming at the beginning of July because we sold out of our first release super quickly. So they'll be back very soon.
I can see why. It looks awesome. All right. So next up, can we introduce Kirsti into the stream?
Hello.
Hey, lovely. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, great. Really excited to be getting going. So why don't you give a little bit of an intro about yourself?
Yes, I'm Kirsti Grayson. I'm the director of Go Velo Limited. We do cycle training and bike maintenance courses in the Northwest.
Excellent. Really glad to have you on board and some of that expertise to be shared with our audience today. And next up, let's introduce Elle. So she's a newbie to our panel. So let's all welcome her. Put in the comments, say hi, see a new face here. So a little bit about you, Elle.
So I'm Elle, I'm a fitness professional and blogger, come cyclist and runner. I am a cycling ambassador, a breeze champion, and yeah, I'll put my hand to anything when it comes to two wheels.
I know that that's very true because I've known you for a few years. I actually bumped into you at a BMXing day in Glasgow. It was like your first ever time trying a new discipline.
A lot of moving, right?
You really did throw yourself into it, so that was great. And who else do we have today? We've got from Cycling UK, the voice of Cycling UK, who are the charity that are putting on these events, by the way, making sure that everyone gets the tips and information that they need. We've got Jenny. Hi. Hi. So why are you joining us? What's your background?
So I, as you said, work for Cycling UK, head of our behaviour change and development team. So running lots of projects to help people get back on their bikes or onto their bikes for the first time. And I cycle a little bit myself, admittedly much more so during lockdown, and more plans to be on the bike much more as lockdown eases.
Excellent. And what's your sort of background in cycling? What sort of cycling do you do?
Oh, bit of commuting, cycling on holiday, and sort of leisure cyclist rather than anything more serious.
Chilled out leisure cyclist, brilliant. And next up, we've kind of got the converse of that. Well, she's become a bit of a leisure cyclist actually, but ex-pro cyclist. We've got Charlene Jones. Hi.
Hi, Anna.
So I think most people know you by now, but if you, for anybody new listening, why don't you give a bit of an intro?
Yes, I'm Charlene Jones, and I used to ride competitively. So I've been to 2 Commonwealth Games, Daily Commonwealth Games, and Glasgow, which was home games for me in Scotland. And then I went to Gold Coast as the Team Barbados cycling coach. So a change there. So I know a lot about actually riding a bike, and also lots of tips that I can help you all out with. And yeah, I stopped in 2016. So now I took a long break off of cycling, and now I'm starting to find the love for it again. And it's almost like a backwards journey. It's been quite interesting, and I'm absolutely loving it again. So really looking forward to giving you some tips about that and how to keep loving the sport as well, how to stay into the sport.
Excellent, thank you. And you have great input every week. Problem is, we're having a little bit of feedback from you. Have you got any idea why? Is there any sort of little adjustments you might be able to make whilst we move on to the next topic? Not really sure what's happening there.
Help if I'm myself.
Don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we'll try that for now, hopefully. And then obviously when you want to speak, we'll see you with your hand up. And this is one that we want everyone to get involved with, this very first question, and so that's going to the audience as well. And by the way, hi Nikki, hi Julia, hi Cara, hi Christine, hi Nadia. Thank you so much for joining us and getting your comments in, and keep them going, because we want to find out, who do you normally ride with? So this is a huge topic when we're talking about progressing your cycling life, because some people start cycling by themselves because they're kind of a little bit intimidated to go cycling with other people. Other people prefer cycling in a group and are actually terrified of going out on their own. Or maybe you've got like a particular buddy or a group or your partner or someone like that you normally go cycling with. So audience, if you can let us know who you normally cycle with, get them in the comments. And we're just going to go round this group here, our expert panel, starting with you, Fran. Who would you say that you normally ride with most? Like, what's your majority of cycling time?
Well, obviously recently my boyfriend, but otherwise I've got a small core group of female friends that ride together as well. So those are my 2 kind of, main cycling groups, really. It depends what I want, because if I go with my boyfriend, there's no leisurely chatting. It's me hanging onto his rear wheel for grim death, him trying not to have a domestic and seeing if I can make it home in one piece. Charlie's smiling away in the corner. She probably knows that feeling. Obviously with my girlfriends, it can be a bit more chilled. We do like to sometimes put in, a bit of an effort, but otherwise it's, can be a bit more sociable. And yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up about not having a domestic with your partner, because with pretty much all the females that I've talked to, it's like we have this beautiful idea of having a partner that also cycles. It means, couples that ride together stay together. And I'm like, in your dreams, couples that ride together want to kill each other.
We're not the same speed and fitness, no matter how much I want to be. He's, built like a mountain goat. But it's also quite strong on the flat. I can just about survive. That's why it works well together, though, to be fair, because if you're riding into the wind, he just does all the effort on the front. So it does work well. But there is a lot of when we try to do a recovery ride, I'm shouting, "This isn't a recovery for me."
We've got Tess in the comments saying that she normally rides with her husband. So how did that go for you? Is that like normally a thing that brings you together, or do you relate to some of the things that we're saying? I'd like to hear from you, Tess. Now, Kirsti, what about you? Who's your main cycling contingent? Do you go on your own or with other people?
Well, what Fran's just said is I used to ride with my ex, and he is now an ex. So I think that says it all. Not due to cycling, I've got to add, but it's not. But yeah, no, I actually really like going on my own. I love it because it's me time, and you can go at your own pace. You can stop when you want. You can look at the scenery. You can change direction. I love that. So yeah, I'm a bit of a solo rider, really.
Oh, well done. Good for you. And what about you, Elle?
For me, I absolutely detest riding on my own. I think it started from having a lack of confidence. So I have found Breeze cycling groups to be the best place. So I either go to organized rides or I organize them myself because I trained up as a champion. And then it's just a really nice space to ride with other women. And other than that, there's a cycling club, well, a kind of digital cycling club that I like to join some of their rides, but they're based a bit further into London, whereas I'm in Essex. So if I can make that, I'd make that, but I'm definitely a group riding kind of girl.
Gets you motivated. Jenny, what about you? You do your leisure cycling. So is it being with someone that makes you motivated to get out, or
No,
is
I've been cycling on my own. Same as Kirsti. It's that kind of walk away from the laptop at the end of the day and go and get on the bike and just go for a cycle on my own to clear my head. And yeah, I pretend like I'm stopping to take pictures. I'm stopping because I'm exhausted and need a break. But I'm like, well, if I get the camera out, then no one's going to know that, so that's fine. And just be overtaken by people on road bikes all the time. But now, so because I've been cycling on my own so much, went for a bike ride with a friend last week, and it just felt like such a treat to be cycling with someone else, and it was really enjoyable because it was pretty chilled and it was nice and flat, and we had a good chat while we were cycling at the same time. So yeah, I really enjoy cycling with friends, and especially cycling with friends who don't cycle very much, and by the end of it, they're like, oh, it's so fun, I love it, I just had a smile on my face the whole time, and it just feels like a lovely kind of social occasion. But yeah, majority of my cycling currently has been just on my own, clearing the head, forgetting about work for a little while, even though work is cycling, so you know, kind of.
Two things go hand in hand. Charlene, if you want to pop your unmute button and let us know what sort of cycling, or who do you go cycling with, or more on your own?
So now I like to go cycling with people that aren't racing. So like just people who like to ride their bikes for enjoyment. So I, as well, like Fran, go out with my husband, and it's different because Lee is a professional rugby player, so he's quite heavy, and so when we get to the hills, it's a bit more difficult for him. So I'm the one who's dropping him behind. But it's all good fun. It's nice to be able to teach him like when to change the gears, how to get up the hill easier, and he smashes me down the hill, obviously. But that's quite fun. I like to go out riding with just my friends who, within lockdown, they've all kind of taken up cycling, and they're all like, Sha, what bike do I get? I've got the Cycle to Work scheme, or like all these different schemes where you can get money off buying bikes. So they just send me the bikes, like images of the bikes. Which one should I get? Which one? What do I get? What do I need to get now? So that's been really fun, just riding with my friends that would never have cycled if lockdown hadn't have happened. So yeah, just like obviously one at a time, but it's been nice to show them around. It's been good.
Awesome, love it. So we're going to talk now about individual cycling. So I want to talk about, for those people who are maybe more nervous about cycling alone, this section is for you. And then later on, we're going to talk about for those who only like cycling alone and maybe are scared about joining a group. So that will come up very shortly. Kirsti, we're going to start with you, because not only do you love cycling alone, and you explained why it gives you so much sense of independence and freedom, but also you come in contact with people quite a lot who maybe voice their fears about cycling alone. So what sort of things tend to come up when people say, oh, I could never ride alone, I'm not really confident about it? What is it? What's the barriers there?
I think the bike maintenance and the lack of sort of knowledge and understanding. I think people sort of make changing a puncture into a really, really big deal, and it's quite a scary experience having to do so if you've not done it before. So I would say, get some experience in how to do so. Go on YouTube, check it out, go on a course locally. As soon as lockdown ends, there'll be courses there for people to teach you how to do it. But go on YouTube and just work out how to do it yourself. I think as well is like have somebody there. So if it does go wrong, you can give somebody a call and say, look, this is where I'm going to be. Can you pick me up if need be? I've had to do that recently with my son. I had a bit of a mechanical. My son came and had to rescue me, which was brilliant. But yeah, and I think also just go out there, know your route, take a map with you, and just work out where you're going.
Yeah, so some good top tips there. And Fran, what would you suggest that people would pack if they're going out for a ride by themselves for their first time?
Okay, so I guess it's always useful to have a phone, for your phone call to international rescue, as I call it. But I also carry a water bottle with some tools in it. So I'll always have an inner tube, a pump, some tire levers, a mini tool, a CO2 canister, and some rubber gloves. So then even if you, for example, the mini tool, that there may be things on there, like a chain splitter, you don't know what to do with it. But if you've got it and somebody stops at the side of the road to offer you a hand, at least you've got the tool so somebody can help you. And it just gives me that bit of confidence that, yes, I might not be able to do that. But as I said, if I had to walk or get to a shop or flag somebody down, then at least I've got something that I know what to do with it. So those are kind of the key tool bits that I would carry, and snacks. But that's because I can't go anywhere without snacks.
So we're just going to ask producer Nick to write a couple of those things down in the comments. So Fran, if you just want to repeat your list so we can get that written down so the audience can refer to it when they actually go and do their packing, that'd be really cool.
Mobile phone, pump, inner tube, mini tool, tire levers, rubber gloves, and a CO2 canister. But that's because I'm tubeless, so but that's something you can practice at home if you want to use CO2.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something that's really good there, which is even if you're not at the stage already where you're really able to do even fix a puncture yourself, which ideally if you're going out on a ride by yourself, it would be ideal that you do know it. But if you're not quite at that stage yet, the cycling community tends to be pretty cool. So as long as you kind of have the tools that you need, the chances are that you'll find someone to bump into that can help you out if you've got that stuff. Who here can remember the first time that they went for a ride by themselves? Anyone want to put their hand up and talk about that? Was there... Okay, go on then, Kirsti.
First time I went out, I did actually have a puncture and was there in a bit of a panic, and of course somebody stopped and helped me, which was brilliant. And a guy just stopped, helped me, and it was great because you realise then that people do stop for you and will help. So it was a really positive experience.
Excellent. So moving on then to cycling in groups, because we've covered how to get a little bit of confidence to go out riding on your own, but there's some comments coming in. Somebody's mentioned hand sanitizer. Thank you, Eileen, which is brilliant because it's very relevant right now. Sorry, what's that, Fran?
That's what the gloves are for. Keep your hands generally.
We're experiencing a global pandemic right now, so that does maybe change the way you think about things. And somebody else has also commented, which is quite relevant to lockdown. Where can I just find it now? About cycling in a group. That was it. So maybe Jenny, you might want to talk about this one. It says from Jean saying, hi there, wondered what the panel thinks about the logistics of 6 people cycling together whilst trying to maintain social distance, because this has come up quite a lot within Cycling UK. People trying to work out what are the parameters, what should you be doing in terms of group riding, specifically about the lockdown situation. So Jenny, is there anything that you'd like to expand on from Cycling UK's point of view?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think probably the easiest thing to refer to is the guidance pages on our website that we've been keeping updated really regularly as anything changes and sort of new guidance is coming out from government. I guess in terms of the logistics, I think a lot about route planning and where you're going to go, and whether it's the sort of the journey that you're going to take and how that would work with 6 people, and appreciating that it is more difficult to maintain that social distancing. But I'd say go and have a read through the guidance on the website, which is updated really regularly to sort of give as much information as we can, and whether it's taking quieter routes or trying to sort of more traffic free routes and that sort of thing, to be able to spread out safely and to maintain that social distancing, rather than perhaps what your usual sort of routes might be, where it would be in more of a kind of a group environment.
Excellent, thank you. And Elle, you said that you're not one for cycling alone, so you're very much a group cyclist. And so it's group cycling that maybe got you into into the sport. So what would you say to someone who was feeling nervous about maybe, oh, I'm not fast enough, I'm not going to be good enough to join a group, everyone's going to be looking at me? What's been your experience?
I think that kind of nerves comes with any new activity, and it's something that personally you need to try to put aside and just turn up, because everyone is always so welcoming. And I know that even when I lead a ride, we always make sure that we ride at the pace of the slowest person and no one is ever left behind, because I've been that person who's been left behind and it's not a great feeling. So I would never want to have that recreated for someone else. So I think, yeah, just find a group that you feel like looks like you would want to like go along. Maybe reach out to that person, let them know how you're feeling, that you're feeling nervous, and I'm pretty sure that they will help calm your nerves and get you to the event, to the meetup. Yeah,
excellent. And Jenny, again, over to you, because you also have some more information about how people can find out groups, and how can people even work out if a group is the right one for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that is so great about cycling, is the different types of groups that there are, whether it's a road cycling group or a off-road mountain biking group, or a more sort of social, less serious group. So on our, again, I'm going to do it again, on our website, we have the find a group pages, and on there all of the different, whether they're a Cycling UK member group or a community cycle club or an affiliated group, you'll be able to find groups firstly that are close to you, but also they'll have on there what sort of rides they run, and sort of how you can get involved, so whether it's a Facebook link or a website or whatever. And if the information is all up to date on there, then you'll be able to see the types of activities that they run. So you'll be able to see, well, is this the sort of cycling that I want to do? Are they doing sort of really long rides on a Saturday, or are they shorter rides with coffee stops and cake stops and all that sort of stuff, which is obviously crucial when out cycling with a group. And then whether it's looking on sort of lots of going directly to Facebook and looking for groups that are close to you in your local area. So with most groups, they'll have a sort of a social media page, Facebook, whatever, to be able to just check out a bit more about them and who's involved. But if you know any other cyclists around you, maybe just have a chat to them and see where they go cycling, and which group they're a part of, and being able to sort of get involved at the right level for you as you build your confidence and find out whether it's solo cycling or group cycling that's really for you. And what we see a lot with our community cycle clubs is, because they're a much more sort of informal, shorter distance kind of cycling offer, it's a great place to go if you are new to cycling or a bit less confident, and still learning sort of the rules of the road and building your confidence and cycle skills. But actually taking those sort of greenways or off-road routes is a really great way to cycle with people from your local community who are a similar sort of level to you, and you can all build your confidence together, rather than sort of diving straight into a group perhaps that does the longer distance road ride sort of thing that Fran and Charlene are talking about there, of chasing each other up hills and that sort of stuff. Might not be for you just yet, but it gives you the chance to build up to those sorts of things, or finding the right group for you. So
yeah, and I've just had a comment here from Shirley, and I'm sorry to hear that you've had a negative experience, because she's actually tried a few cycling clubs and hasn't found them welcoming or friendly, so now she mostly rides on her own. Unfortunately, the ladies have been more unfriendly than the guys, which has really put her off. So, I don't think that's necessarily a common experience, Shirley, and I think it's bad luck, really, and pretty rubbish. Like, what's that all about? You're trying to join a club and people aren't being friendly. I would have liked to have thought that people are kind of, the culture had moved on and grown out of that for now. And so what would any of you say to Shirley, or somebody who's maybe had a negative experience? What sort of questions can you be asking to find out if a club is right for you? Charlene?
That's absolutely awful, and it's really not nice to hear. You're always going to get people in sport that are on their high horse, and they're going to be like, this is my club and this is blah blah blah, but just avoid those clubs, and you'll find something else in your area. If you just, look on Facebook for just type in local cycling clubs, and I can't remember what it was, but it might be what you said, Jenny, the
Yeah, you do get mean people in all walks of life, but I do think generally cycling is quite a friendly sport. And it is interesting what you say about like how the landscape has changed in the last 10 years, because I was also cycling 10 years ago, and also, I mean, we are doing this push to try and bridge the gender gap and get more women on bikes, but you can tell even in the last 10 years that gap has been getting smaller and smaller. I do really notice there are more women on bikes all the time. And Shirley, just take a little look at the comments there, because there's some people reaching out with some comments and maybe finding out if you're in their area where some of the friendly people in our group are maybe going riding with you. Fran, if somebody really wants to join a more serious cycling club, you know, they've got the bug, they love cycling, what sort of etiquette tips would be helpful? Ideally, if they join a club, the best way to learn is by joining, and people will teach you as you go along. So what sort of things will people start to learn as they ride in groups, in bigger groups and faster groups?
Well, I guess the key thing is learning to ride in a group, especially if you're joining a club for the first time and you spent a lot of time riding on your own. So there'll be a lot of clubs out there that'll do what they call taster rides. So the idea is you just go out on that first ride and learn to ride in a group, and they'll teach you the etiquette of the group. So things like, you know, pointing out potholes, indicating when you're going round parked cars, you know, lots of things like that, of which, you know, Kirsti may cover that a bit more later with her role. And then most clubs have a variety of different riding abilities within that. So you can then find the one, you know, either start, you know, at the bottom, or figure out the one that's around your pace. That's kind of where I'd start, really. And it's one of those things you learn by riding with people. You know, Google's great, but there's actually too much information. You're better off going out there and learning by going with more experienced people and saying, well, actually, you know, you need to point out the big obvious potholes because the people behind you won't see them. So it's that kind of, you know, learning from other people.
Great. So any other comments from our experts here? If you want to put your hands up about either riding alone or riding in a group that you think would be useful for our listeners, or in the audience, if you've got any questions before we move on to talk about mechanics. So we'll go Fran again and then move to you, Elle.
I just had one quick thing from earlier when you said about what things should you carry. Identification. And don't rely on your phone and the emergency contact in your phone. So prior to working at Velevix, and I was a police officer for 13 years, if you have an accident on a bike and you end up on your back and people aren't going to move you, they're not going to go ferreting in your pocket for a phone. So look for something like a wrist ID band. So road ID's the classic one, but there's loads of companies out there just with your contact details on.
Ah, it's a good idea. Yeah, thank you. Elle?
In terms of the group cycling and finding a group that you like, there was nothing available in my area, so that was why I became a Breeze champion. So there's always the option to just create that group in that small community yourself, maybe at like a local bike shop or a local like hall or something. So yeah, that if you are in an area and there's nothing there already for you, there probably are lots of other women, or at least a few other women in the same area who are looking for something too. So maybe just create that.
Great, yeah, create it yourself. I've been doing that a little bit here in Spain, actually. I wanted to make some friends, so I started a little cycling group, currently literally stalking women on Strava in my area, and dropping them messages to see if they want to be my friends. Real. But yeah, it works. Mostly I'm riding with my granddad gang at the moment, so it's there's quite a retired community out here, and on one of the rides one of the guys became a granddad for the first time. It's super cool. For me, meeting loads of lovely people by doing it myself, by looking for those people. So it does work. So we're going to move on to mechanics now. Kirsti, if people are going out for a ride, what sort of things they need to check on their bike every single time that they go out? What are the fundamentals there?
Okay, so you do a basic M check on your bike. So starting at the rear wheel nuts, make sure the wheel nuts are nice and tight. Check your spokes. Check your tyre pressures like an apple, not like a squidgy tangerine. Work your way up to your saddle. Make sure it's nice and tight and it doesn't fall off when you're riding. Down to your pedals. Make sure your pedals spin nicely. Check your chain, that it's not rusty, nice and silvery grey. Make sure as well, give those pedals a bit of a pull, and make sure it's not all wonky down in the bottom bracket. Up to your handlebars, check both brakes are working nicely. Check that your handlebars are going in the same direction as your front wheel. Work your way back down to the front wheel again. Check your apples and oranges. They should feel like an apple. Your tyre pressure should feel nice and tight like an apple. Spokes again, and then last thing, wheel nuts. So quick M check on there. It takes literally as long as I've just spoken for then. If you do that, then your bike's in good working order. Alternatively, is all you can do is do the ABC check the air. So check for your apples, not your squidgy tangerines. Check your brakes, check your chain, make sure your chain's on, and then just drop your bike, and if anything falls off it, put it back on. Simple.
Just put it back on. And if you're going to be putting things back on yourself, there's some basic fundamentals that if you're really getting into cycling, there are some things that you probably want to learn how to do yourself. Maybe Charlene, do you want to talk through some of the bike mechanic things that you really recommend that people learn how to do independently?
Changing a puncture. It's so annoying, but just spend a day in the house changing your inner tube that you've got, putting it in, taking it out, putting it out. Just type into YouTube how to change a bike tire, and it will make you feel so much more at ease when you go out. Of course, if you're in a bunch or if you're with someone else that knows how to do it, it's great. But imagine knowing that you can actually do it yourself. And if you come across someone that can't, you can also help. So main one for me is to know how to change your puncture, change your inner tube. Also, I would definitely recommend just with your gears, to know that sometimes if you think that the gear, if the chain is slipping or it's clicking and you think it's going to come off, to try to keep pedaling slowly and don't push too much on the pedals, and then keep changing the gears, and you might save it. So don't automatically think, oh no, and stop. Keep pedaling slowly and change the gears from where it is up or down. And then generally, I would say 70% of the time for me, it can just go back on. So, yeah, can I talk about that, about changing gears here? So,
yeah, go for it.
So when you are changing gears, when you sometimes when you panic and you're like, oh gosh, like we're coming to a hill, I need to get down. Try to go slow as you change the gear, not your speeds, but as you're changing it, don't go down 3 at one time. So 1, pedal slowly, and don't push down too hard on the pedals when you're changing your gears. This is it's something that I just do automatically now, and that you forget. So going out with all my friends that are just starting to cycle, and they're like, I'm looking over at them and they're climbing a hill and they're in their biggest gear and they're like, oh my god, climbing so hard, and I'm like, change your gear, and then they're pushing down on the pedals and they're like trying to change, and I'm like, oh, just hang on, just chill out, just one time. Just change one down, click one down, easy pedaling, that's one. Okay, two. And honestly, slow it down, especially if you're a newbie. Changing gears, getting your head around that is can be quite tricky, but just keep changing your gears, keep getting used to it, especially if you're brand new at it. Definitely suggest getting into a smaller gear, so that means like an easier gear for climbing the hills, and then knowing that you've got a bigger gear for the flats and the downhill as well. So just make sure you're not pushing hard on the pedals when you change the gear. Obviously keep the wheels turning, but it's a common mistake, and it can be how you drop your chain as well. So I guess that's just how to try and avoid it. Try and avoid the chain coming off.
This is great. People are loving the tips, and it's made me thought maybe we can tell like a couple of stories of some of the mistakes that we all made when we were first getting into cycling. Now, I don't really have an excuse with this one because I've been cycling my whole life, but I was probably like in my early 20s doing a road bike race. But I hate bike mechanics. I hate it. I never even think like the bike could be the problem. I always think the problem's me. And I did this bike race, road race, and I'm normally quite good at cornering. That's like my special skill is going around corners, not the fitness stuff. And this one race, I was like, I was just so bad at cornering today. And I finished the race in like a super bad mood. I was like, I was just rubbish. I don't know what's wrong with me. This was really a rubbish race. And then my brother came along and he squeezed my tires. And he was like, Anna, you've got practically no air in your tires. And we put the gauge on. I did a bike race with like 25 PSI in my tires, which not only made it really hard for me, it's probably quite dangerous as well, like bearing in mind other people in the bunch. So that, I've not made that mistake again. I do check my tire pressures when I go out and have them more or less around about 90 PSI if you've got a little gauge on your tools. That's sort of my rule of thumb, depending on lots of different criteria. Fran, you sometimes talk about PSI and different options. Do you want to just without getting too technical, without it going really down that route, just quickly sum up a bit about PSI and different options?
Well, the only reason I became obsessed about tire pressure was from racing cross, funnily enough. So I raced cyclocross, and every time my boyfriend would try to set my tires up and I'd be like, there's not enough air in them, and then I'd race, and the complete opposite to you, like you, Anna, I'd fall off around a corner, and he's like, that's because you've got your tire pressure too high. So I've now become obsessed. But the short version is you need to do some testing, okay? So there's been loads of chat on the Velevixen page lately about I won't ride my tire pressure at 100 PSI because that's what it says on the tire, right? What it says on the tire is it's giving you a max tire limit, that if you put PSI, that maximum PSI, and your tire will explode. That's not the PSI you should run your tire at. So just do a brief bit of Googling, because it does depend whether you've got inner tubes or not, and it does depend on your weight. But you can do a bit of testing. To give you an idea, I now ride a tubeless bike. I weigh 60 kilos and I'm on 60 PSI.
Excellent. Yeah, we just had Diana's also saying that she runs about 60 PSI. I think I'd put mine so high just because it means that I have to less frequently pump it back up again. And I've done the exploding tyre thing as well before. So anyone else in our panel want to share any stories about their bike mechanic mistakes or disasters where they've learned something particularly good? Elle, we'll go to you there.
I mean, other than the days as a kid where you would use the petrol stations to pump up your bikes, I don't know when that stopped being a thing, but I think if there's one place that I've learned loads about mechanics, it's in cyclocross racing. I was in one particular race. I was actually doing okay. I was not coming last. And then all of a sudden I could just hear all this noise. And luckily someone on the side, he was like, it's your derailleur. And I'm like, my what? So I stop. I'm on the ground, digging mud off of the bike and then trying to get a chain back on. Quickest way to learn how to put a chain back on. And from then on, I now know what a derailleur is.
And what is a derailleur?
Oh, good question. Thanks for testing me. I don't know, is that thing at the back or the front that keeps the chain on?
Yeah, the little dangly bit.
Yeah, the very, very delicate thing.
Sort of Z-shaped cog type thing. Yeah. Brilliant. Any more mechanic stories from our panels? And we've got people in the comments as well. Emma says she always does what it says on the tyres. So do remember that that's the maximum, not the advice, not the recommended amount. And I just want to see, Eileen says tyres should be firm like an apple, not squishy like a banana. And let me see, there was another comment here. Oh yeah, this isn't about bike mechanics, but it's just a nice comment that I want to draw attention to from Lisa, who's talking about the group making friends in Spain. So I've started some groups, Elle has also started groups, and saying that you meet all sorts of people from all different walks of life. And I do find that cycling can be a great leveler. You know, you don't know what jobs people do, you don't know much about them, about their backgrounds, how much they earn, what's going on in their personal lives. You're all just there riding a bike, and it can be a great way to meet people outside of your normal bubble. You know, often you attract yourself to people that are kind of more similar to you. So that is a really great thing about cycling. We had another mechanic story, I think. Was that you, Jenny? Did you have your hand up there?
It was just following on from Elle's derailleur chat, actually, and not knowing what these things are on our bikes. But so I sort of cycling more during lockdown, and realised that my gears were not changing smoothly at all when I was out cycling. So I was like, right, I need to do something about that. So thanks to YouTube and a super helpful video, I learned how to index my gears. And so I was doing all these things and like tightening things and loosening things. I'm pretty sure I just loosened things and then tightened them back up to exactly where they were before. However, when I took the bike out then on the next ride, how smooth my gears were, the pride that I felt for having learned how to do that myself, and you know, it was fixed and it was my work and all the rest of it was brilliant. Couldn't tell you how to do it again, and I will have to go back to YouTube the next time it needs to be done. However, having done it, I'm like, right, well, I can do this bike mechanic thing, and then started googling all these different things I might be able to do to my bike to like tweak it and do this, that and the other. But yeah, that's all beyond me. But step one, learning what the derailleur was, Elle, like you, and then actually doing something about it, I was like, yeah, I've got this. This is fine. I can now ride my bike. My next thing is to learn how to fix a puncture. I do know I'm going to have to do that at some point, but I'm putting that off for now. So that'll be step 2 in my bike maintenance education.
And sorry, one sec, Charlene, so we're rattling through. We've still got a few more topics that I want to cover. To also mention about bike shops, because if you do get a little bit stuck about doing things yourself, local bike shops are a great resource. Has anyone here had many experiences visiting their local bike shops? Do they tend to be female friendly places? What tips? Just expand on that topic. Is there anyone who would like to lead here? Fran, hands up.
Well, I think it's one of those things that people think that bike shops are quite a scary place. And I think probably 10, 15 years ago, they probably were, because again, there was less women involved in cycling. But I think if you go into most local bike shops now, they will be accommodating. You know, people want to support small businesses. They want to give people a service. And, you know, most bike shop owners get satisfaction from seeing people go away satisfied with a new bike or a fixed bike. So I just think don't be afraid and don't be shy about going into your local bike shop and speaking to them, because they're the ones that will be able to save your bacon last minute, not, you know, buying the bits cheap online. It's your local bike shop that'll be the ones that can help you if you need, I need this done by tomorrow because I want to go out with my mates.
And there's a few initiatives out there, aren't there, about helping people get their bikes into working order. Somebody's commented earlier on about the £50 scheme to help get your bikes fixed. Now, I've heard a little bit about that. It's Tracy. She said, can you tell me a bit more about the £50 government scheme for repairing your bike? I might be putting people on the spot here, but is there anyone who's sort of qualified to talk a little bit more about that in our panel? Is that your hand up, Kirsti? Do it. So if you can just unmute yourself.
I'm here. I've looked into it because obviously my company provides bike maintenance and free servicing for people currently for the NHS. So I had a look at that. I don't think as yet it's been launched. So there's nothing official, but I'm keeping a close eye on it. There was something from government saying that it was going to be launched towards the end of June. Correct me if I'm wrong. It may have been updated since then, but that's what I know so far, I think.
Elle, did you want to expand there? Oh, you were just waving around. Cool. And Jenny, do you want to add anything as well about maybe the big bike revival and other things where people can get their bikes out of the shed and going again?
Yeah, absolutely, and totally agree with Kirsti's point there. Hoping to see more on the voucher scheme released soon. But yeah, so the big bike revival that we run every summer is really about helping people get bikes that might be in the shed out and in working order again through pop-ups delivered in local parks by qualified mechanics, local bike shops, recycle centres. So the link is really handily on there at the moment. We've been running it all through lockdown for key workers and NHS workers so that they can cycle to work and be commuting safely on bikes that are in good working order, and something we're looking to continue to roll out all through the summer. So yeah, more information to come on that, but it's just, for us, it's tapping into that network of really knowledgeable and excellent bike shops and mechanics and recycle centres as a way to either get a really good quality second-hand bike, or to get your bike fixed up, or also to learn skills as well. So to teach people about those basic kind of maintenance things that we've been talking about now, whether it's fixing a puncture or checking your gears, so that it's not just about, okay, well, you can go and get it fixed, but also you can learn along the way, so that then you're more equipped and more confident to deal with it next time it might need a check as well. So yeah, linking into exactly what Kirsti was mentioning there about.
Perfect. So there's loads of resources out there. So if bike maintenance and mechanics and something like that is intimidating you, there's ways that you can learn about doing it yourself. And there's also resources and people and shops and classes and all things out there that can help you. So just go delving in, and hopefully you've picked up some tips from this chat already. And so we're going to talk a little bit about clothing now. We've got some great experts here, and we've already touched on it on the beginner session. So like I say, if you're just tuning in now, we have run these panel discussions, talking very, very beginner cycling, really getting your bike on your bike for the first time in perhaps a long time and doing just a few miles. And I want to reiterate that if you just want to start cycling, you don't really need anything. You just need a bike that's good to go and perhaps a pair of trainers. You don't need anything special, so don't let that put you off cycling. But if you want to then take your cycling to a little bit more of a next level, go a bit further, or do it more frequently, then starting to think about kit is really important for your own comfort. Now, I'm going to start with a little tip, because I really love cycling in jeans. I do mountain biking quite a lot and just love riding in jeans. Don't know why. I think I just don't like the idea always of having to get changed into something different. If I can put my knee pads on under my jeans, I'm even happier, or cycle around town. But I have realised over the years that if you're going to cycle a lot in jeans, you need a spare pair of jeans that you keep for good, because eventually your saddle will rub away at the bum part of your seat and you end up with these white bum patches. And that's not always a good look when you're going for your smart jeans. So keep one pair of jeans aside that you don't ever cycle in if you're going to be a denim rider. So then, talking about kit, Elle, when you were getting into cycling, what were the first cycling specific bits of kit that you invested in?
If I remember rightly, I pretty much looked like a Christmas tree, which is hilarious when I look back at the pictures. But I think I had a gilet that I got in a sale, which had pockets, which for me is probably one of the most important things that your kit needs to have, and a pair of 3/4 leggings. And yeah, I think it's just you don't have to splash out on expensive stuff to start with, because you're probably still figuring out what you feel comfortable in, what kind of distances you want to do, so what you need your kit to, where you need your kit to take you. So yeah, just bungle together some of your jeans and some of your running kit if you already run, or some of your workout kit to start with, and then eventually, once you know a bit more, then start to invest in more technical gear.
More cycling gear. And Charlene, like you said earlier on, you've kind of gone the other way. You've gone from hero to zero. No, I don't mean that. You've gone from pro to casual cyclist. From right, yeah, we'll go with that. So you've like said that you now enjoy cycling around in just whatever you're wearing and not being a cyclist. So at what point of a ride would you think, okay, this is a ride where I need cycling kit, whereas this is a ride where I'm just not going to bother?
So if I'm going out for a cycle to ride my bike for the sole purpose of just riding my bike, I will wear the padded shorts and the cycling shoes, clipping shoes, cleats, pedals, and all the cycling gear. But if I'm just going to the shops to buy my food, or going around to my friends, or just if I'm cycling to somewhere, I don't wear anything that's cycling apart from a helmet. Yeah. So
I was worried where you were going. I don't wear anything apart from my helmet.
Don't wear anything apart from a helmet. Literally, I just wear what I'm wearing. Just got to make sure, if you're, one of these glam ladies that rides the bike, which I love to see, and you've got your long floaty skirt, make sure you either tie it in a knot, or it's safe and it's not going to go in your chain, because I've seen it happen before. So if you've got like the baggy trousers or anything like that, tuck it in a sock, especially on your right hand side, the side that the chain's in, and just make sure that it's safe. Oh, as well, like if you're wearing trainers, make sure they're tied, because sometimes if you're used to wearing trainers and you just tuck your laces in, because you're moving your feet a lot, they can come out and then they can get caught in your chain, and it's just a mess. So I really would recommend, I know it's not cool for some people, but it could save a lot of damage. It could save a lot of damage.
And it can be very dangerous. I've had my shoelace caught and it stops you dead. It can stop the bike from, you're going and then suddenly you're not. So it's actually a brilliant tip. I'm really glad that you brought that one up. Thanks, Charlene. Kirsti, do you have your hand up? Do you want to mention something about kit? And also, as well, I'd love to hear from you is about kit and weather as well. So if you could, whatever you wanted to say, plus something about UK weather.
I'm really, really keen to normalise cycling and make it absolutely just get on your bike and ride it in your jeans, in whatever you're wearing. But yesterday I taught 3 people to ride a bike. So I spent 3 hours, and I can get, if you're learning to ride a bike, I think it's really important to invest in some form of cycling kit for your bum. Because the poor people who I was teaching yesterday, honestly, they within about 20 minutes, you could see the look on their face that they were concentrating on riding a bike, but they couldn't actually concentrate on that because their bums hurt. So I kind of really felt for them. I really want to normalise cycling, but I think when you're just first starting off, get some cycling shorts, because it does actually elongate that first couple of lessons. And then you've got them then, haven't you? As far as weather and cycling, I've got like a roll-up mat which I stick in, in my back in the cycling jersey. If I'm going out on the mountain bike, just stick it in there, and it's there if I need it. You don't need it. Skin's waterproof, isn't it? So at the end of the day, unless you're out there for a really, really long time, you're not going to shrink, and you're going to be all right. You might be a bit cold, so just make sure that you wrap up accordingly. Take some layers, but make sure that they can be packed away.
Excellent, thank you. And now we're going to move on to Fran, just to wax lyrical about this topic. Take the stage, because this really is your topic. You have tried and tested and ridden and sourced and bought cycle clothing from pretty much every single brand that is available in the UK. So you really do know what works, what doesn't, and what women cyclists, your customers, want. So I'm just going to hand the mic to you and just let you talk, say some of the experiences you've had and learnings
Well, I think the key thing is, obviously we've talked about the very basic things that you need to ride, but I think when you want to go to that next level to start investing in a few key pieces, I've always said some of the best investment you can make is a gilet and some arm warmers. So a gilet is like a little vest. It's got some pockets in the back, as Elle mentioned, and arm warmers are literally exactly as you say they are, with a thermal backing, because the point is those are both so versatile. So at the minute when the weather's changeable or you go out early doors, it's a bit cooler, the key is keeping your core warm. So if you put your gilet and your arm warmers on and then the sun comes out, you can take them off and stuff them in your jersey pocket or a bag if you're carrying a bag. Obviously Kirsti mentioned coats, so there's a whole range of, like, this is like a packable rain cape from Stolen Goat. But, you know, we also have more substantial stuff if you actually want to go out riding in proper weather. And I think most cyclists would agree it's always key to have some cool socks. So you can have flamingo socks.
Cyclists love cool socks, don't they? When you're a cyclist, you know you're a cyclist when you've invested in cool socks.
Exactly, and you've got insane amounts coming out of a drawer. But I guess I could talk about kit forever. I guess the key thing is if people do have specific kit questions, they have a budget and they say, I want to buy a waterproof coat, then they can email us, and that's where we come in. You know, as you can speak to me and I can say, well, if your budget is X, these are your options and this is when you'd wear them. But as said, really, padded shorts and keeping your core warm are the two things to start with. But then you can go down the rabbit hole of lycra jerseys and fits of jerseys and all kinds of pieces of kit.
And plus sizes as well. That's come up a little bit in the chat a few times, actually. So I think people often find that there's not decent plus size lycra kit out there.
So we do sell plus size kit. Stolen Goat is a brand that goes up to 3XL. Endura do 3XL, which is around a size, UK size 20. So it is there, but it sells really quickly because in the past there hasn't been a demand for it. So it's always been made in small quantities. I think brands are now becoming more aware and are making larger quantities of it. Our jerseys, which are behind me here, which are coming in the beginning of July, they'll go up to a 3XL as well. So again, if you have a specific question about sizing, drop me a line and I can help with that.
Great, cool. And another one for you, Fran. Anyone purchase padded knickers? Because it's come to that moment in the show where we're talking about padded pants again. It just happens every week.
I know. Well, our padded pants are our best seller, so women swear by them. I have worn them myself, but not for the longer rides. But yes, we have women that do everything from 5-mile commutes in them to some women that have ridden 100k in them because that's what they like. It works for them with their saddle. They're out of stock at the minute, but they are coming into stock very shortly. Hopefully by the end of this month, we will have it restocked in all sizes again, up to 3XL and down to extra small.
And on the XL thing, we've got Kerry, who's mentioned that Fat Lad at the back are also a good brand for amazing larger sizes. And they also have a sub-brand, I think, called Fat Lass at the back. So they're really embracing the plus size options there as well. So thank you for that. And Christine, she loves her Velo Vixen long sleeve tops. And she was one of the people that managed to get in there early, which is great. Look, we're running out of time. I was going to talk about choosing a cycling discipline, because I think that's really, really important. When you might have just got on a bike thinking, I'm just going cycling, which is all it is you're riding a bike. But once you've done that, it can go in any direction depending on your personality and your desires and the things that you want. So we're not going to be able to spend as long on this topic as I really wanted, so maybe it's something I could come back to in a few weeks' time. But just very quickly, we're going to go round, and if each of us could talk a little bit about a different type of cycling. So Charlene, you've had some experience in this. What is track cycling?
Velodrome. You're basically you just go round and round and round. Sounds boring, but it's totally not. You can go so fast. So if you like the adrenaline, what I like about cycling is that I can go so fast. Like, I'm pretty much an adrenaline junkie, so it's perfect. If you like that part of cycling, get on a track. Just when we're allowed back on the tracks and things, get on a track. It's so much fun. You can go so fast. And yeah, I would just really recommend it to anyone that doesn't really like cleaning bikes as well, because you've not got all the elements to have to deal with. I'm the lazy one here that doesn't like cleaning bikes. Hello, that's me. So I don't like doing it, but I mean, I have to clean my road bike. Probably my least favorite thing about road riding is cleaning the bike, which is why I do track cycling. So at least for a reason, come on, get in the cycling bike, get on a mountain bike. Oh, I mean, that sounds really fun.
It's very much about sort of racing and speed, and it's the things that people have seen on the Olympics as well. You know, the UK has always had a very strong track team, so that's velodrome riding. On the opposite of not cleaning your bike, if you love cleaning your bike, you might want to get into cyclocross. Fran, can you talk us a little bit through what is cyclocross and also the difference with that and gravel riding, which is becoming very popular at the moment?
Okay, well, gravel riding is basically riding what looks like a road bike, but with knobbly tyres, off-road, down forestry commission paths, bridleways, that kind of thing. Taking gravel riding to the next level is what we call cyclocross, which is a form of bike racing, normally takes place in winter, the autumn into the winter. It consists basically multiple laps of a small field, which features pavement, wooded trails, grass, steep hills, but also obstacles. So you have to get off your bike and run over planks or run over a ditch. I managed to bully Elle into joining me at a cyclocross race last September, where our club Velobants put on a women's race, and our goal was actually to get 100 women to race. We had 163 women on the start line. It was just incredible. But it's just the best thing because it's really short and intense in winter. So it's perfect for having that fix of sport, but it's also really sociable. And, you know, Elle will back me up on this. It's both sociable and nobody knows who's winning after about 5 minutes because it's multiple laps. So there's no feeling like you're bringing up the rear. Whereas in a road race, if you get dropped at the start, you're dropped, aren't you? There's none of that in cyclocross because everybody races for 40 minutes.
Thank you. Kirsti, road cycling, when does sort of normal cycling become road cycling? I'm a road cyclist. Would you say there's a grey area or a fine line where it becomes the sport?
I think it's when you start to go and ride with a club. I think you then become a road cyclist. If you're riding within a club environment or you're out there churning up the miles, going for big long spells with a cafe break, I think that's a road cyclist to me. You know, I'm effectively a mountain biker. I like the dirty stuff. I don't mind cleaning my bike, and I love the great outdoors and going and seeing lovely big high mountains and playing about on that. So that's more my bag. But certainly road cycling, you know you're a road cyclist when your socks are at a certain length and that you can see somebody's bum about that far away from you. That's somebody else's game.
Elle, you've got some fans in the audience. Diana, she loved the Veloband cyclocross and she got to meet you. Absolute bonus. Woo! And Elle, you've done some long distance sort of stage riding with the London to Paris. So what's stage riding like, or day-to-day tours?
So I would probably call what we did bike packing, because we just decided we wanted to ride to Paris. We decided we'd do it over 3 days, and we decided we'd do it unsupported. So it was a really adventurous thing to do, in that we had to do all the research ourselves, decide where we were going to ride to, plan our routes, decide where we were going to stay. And it definitely was testing. But we all remained friends by the end of it, which is what counts. So yeah, I think that I enjoyed that because it wasn't too grueling. We rode for maybe, 6 hours a day. There was still time to have dinner, enjoy the evening, see the area that we were in, enjoy the view as we were riding. So yeah, that's something that I definitely did enjoy, but it did take quite a lot of training and planning.
Good. All right. And Jenny, could you tell everyone what mountain biking is?
Sure. I was having a conversation with a colleague about this yesterday and decided that mountain biking is going up and down mountains on a bike. And that was...
It's in the title, mate. It's in the title.
So that's the clue. But mountain biking is, so thinking of, if you know about ski runs and you've got your different colours, so blue, green, red, black, so different types of trails and runs that you can do, from family friendly blue runs all the way through to the sort of much more advanced red and black runs. Fran mentioned it already about the Forestry Commission routes, so really good website for sort of family routes and sort of easier trails to take. And then you'll have your more sort of specific mountain bike centres, really advanced one in Wales and lots of all over the country where it's very specific and for the more experienced sort of mountain bike cyclists. So yeah, different kind of bike, looks very different from a road bike if you've got a sort of a proper mountain bike, and it can be as sort of organised or freestyle as you want, from sort of finding your own routes, something like the off-road Great North Trail from one end of the country to the other, or doing something that's sort of in a park that's been created for mountain biking. And then there's 3 different types. So you've got downhill, cross country, and then enduro mountain biking, which is sort of a bit of a combination of the 2. But I believe, Anna, you're going to talk about downhill specifically, so I will pass the baton over to you for that one.
Great, cool, thanks for setting that up. And I think like one of the big joys of mountain biking is that it's traffic free. You're away from the tarmac roads, you're away from cars and traffic, and you can be a lot more connected in nature. You can really get lost in the off-road there. And yeah, thank you for that, Jenny, because I'm going to talk a little bit about downhill, because that's something that really interests me. And for any of you adrenaline junkies out there, it's not all about just cycling down a hill. Actually, no, it is. It's just all about cycling down a hill. But it's a lot more technical than that. So you're kind of downhill, you look for uplift, so you can get in a ski lift or a van or something like that, where your bike is actually taken to the top of the hill, so you don't have to do any of that hard work. And then on the downhills, you're looking for things that really test your technical ability and often your bravery, your courage. So roots and rocks and jumps and getting in the air, getting both wheels off the ground and things like that. So it's very much a fun sport where people say things like rad and gnarly. So if that sounds like you, give me a shout and we can go ride downhills together. Cool. Well, I mean, we've totally overrun on time, but I think that we've jam-packed so much information and tips and funny stories in here that I really, really hope that everyone who's been watching has enjoyed it and picked up on something. We're going to do our outro as we normally do, but keep it quite quick because we run out of time. So our guests, can you quickly scroll through the comments and see if you want to pick out one that you'd like to read and answer before we get out of here? Charlene, you seem to be dying to go with your hand there. So do you want to go first? You're muted. Yep.
Hi. Sorry. There was a comment not that far back about whether recommendations on a saddle, a cutout saddle. Now I use an Adamo saddle, breakaway Adamo saddle, and I love it. Getting straight to the point. At the start, your sit bones round about there will feel sore and like maybe be a little bit bruised, but it then toughens up and then you can't feel it. But it just protects the middle part, so you're not going to get any friction there. For me, it really, really works, but I know that you need to work on it. So you need to be riding that bike quite a lot, and then it will be like, it took me maybe 2 or 3 months, but definitely works for me. So I use a cutout saddle. There you go. Thank you.
Fran?
I'm just going to go with a comment about mountain biking is the one from Tess. Big green open spaces, hitting the trails, getting lost in the woods, playtime. I'm with you there. And there's nothing better than getting on your mountain bike. You feel like a kid again.
Same. Excellent. Thanks, Tess. Kirsti, what's your comment today?
Oh, that was going to be mine as well. I like the hashtag playtime. I'm up for that, Tess. I'm with you all the way.
Well, okay. Elle, have you seen any comments there that you'd either like to answer or just highlight?
I think not any specifically, but I think one thing I've realized is the importance of our social connections in cycling online. So the people, especially ladies that I've met on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, like Diana mentioned, that we then got to meet at the race in September, and Tess is a friend of mine, and I know Diane through you, Anna. So I think I just want to highlight how valuable making connections online can be to then take those into real life when you get the chance.
Cool, thank you for that. Lovely. And finally, Jenny.
Yeah, mine's just a comment to highlight actually from Emma Ducommon. Our local bike shop put on a workshop on changing punctures after a few of his arts. So just going back to the conversation we were having much earlier about learning and that sort of education for yourself, but also how valuable the local bike shops are, that just from a few of them sort of going in and asking for help, they not only did it, but they provided it for free just to, you know, help them out, and it builds their confidence to go in and to be a part of that network. So I guess building on Elle's point there, that it's that sort of online and social connection, but then also the importance of that sort of connection and that network in the real life as well, which I think is really wonderful to see.
Cool, cheers. All right, well, thank you so much to our expert speakers, our guests today. We've massively gone over time, but you've just made it so interesting that I felt like I couldn't cut it short. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to the audience for tuning in and all of the questions. If you want anything particular answered, you can get in touch. You could also get in touch with any of us individually on the comments. We will try and get back to any specific questions. And we're starting a women's newsletter as well, women's cycling newsletter. So do sign up to that if you're interested, because we've got the Women's Festival of Cycling coming up very soon. Next week's episode is all about pregnancy, having babies and cycling. We've got some brilliant guests on the panel, including a star guest of Lizzie Deignan. So it's going to be very, very exciting. If that's one that's relevant to you, or you know anybody who'd be interested in learning more about cycling, pregnancy and having babies and all that goes with it, please get them to tune in same time next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.